Another way of embedding stimuli is to do it in sound. And here's a web page that I found from www.reversespeech.com. What is reverse speech? Well, it has been called the discovery of the seventh sense. The research into this phenomenon has been described as being of Nobel caliber. By who? Or him over there. He just said it because I told him to. It's a web page. Don't believe what you read on web pages. There's no attributions here. But it has been featured in numerous publications around the world, and in the United States it became a household name in the late 90s. It's called reverse speech, the phenomenon of hidden backward messages in speech. It initially gained worldwide fame in the early 1980s as those strange backward messages in rock and roll songs. You've all heard of these, I'm sure. If human speech is recorded and played backwards, mixed around the gibberish at regular intervals can be heard very clear statements. Now, this website claims, bizarrely, that in all of our normal speech, our hidden subconscious meaning comes out backwards. We all do it all the time. We all talk backwards subconsciously. And if you record this lecture and play it backwards, you'll hear what I really think. They make money analysing politicians' speeches by playing them backwards to see, he says he hates tax cuts. But they are right that it did come to prominence as those strange hidden messages in rock songs. And there was a very famous case to do with Judas Priest. In 1986, the record company was sued by the parents of two teenagers, James Vance and Ray Belknap. They had had a suicide pact. Belknap had actually killed himself, and Vance had tried to but failed. And they had spent the day beforehand drinking beer, smoking cannabis, and listening to a song, Stained Class by Judas Priest. And the argument of the family was that Judas Priest had put backwards subliminal messages in this song that had encouraged suicidal thoughts, had encouraged these two maladjusted youths to commit suicide, to enter into a suicide pact. So they were trying to get damages from the record company for causing the deaths of these two boys. Nothing to do with the beer, nothing to do with the cannabis, nothing to do with the fact that they were the sorts of boys that spent all day drinking beer, smoking dope and listening to Judas Priest. It was those hidden messages in the song. And this went through court after court after court and eventually was thrown out. Because there was no evidence either that there were hidden messages in the music, that they'd been put there deliberately, or that they could affect anyone's behaviour. That was the finding of the court. Now, I don't have a copy of Stained Class, so I'm unable to test its ability to create suicidal ideation on you. You'll be glad to know. However, I do have a copy of Stairway to Heaven. Are you familiar with Stairway to Heaven? I want you to listen for a hidden backwards message. If there's a bustle in your hedgerow, don't be alone there. It's just a sprinkling for the May Queen. Yes, there are two paths you can go by, but in the long run, there's still time to change the road you're on. Okay? You hear the hidden message? Anyone want to go and eat popcorn? Drink Coke?
It seemed quite clear, I thought.
Yeah? You've been influenced.
I heard things about Satan or something.
Ah, I think you know the story. That's it forwards. Here it is backwards. So it should be really clear this time. So you could clearly hear the hidden messages there. You could clearly hear it there, couldn't you? What did it say?
Something about Satan.
Something about Satan. Who heard something about Satan in there? Yeah. What else did you hear? Nothing about Elvis, no. Anything else? My sweet Satan. Okay, here are the words that are actually... these are the words, that entire song. It's not just a snippet inserted into there. This is like what reversespeech.com say. The whole song makes sense backwards. And now what I'm going to do is play the song again while you read through the words. Drag it down so it's out of the way. Weren't Page and Plant amazing to be able to do this? To sing a whole song that makes sense backwards and make us think it was a different song. How could they do that? Unless they were in league with the Lord of Darkness himself. And he had given them this power. Or maybe we're just spending too long listening to gibberish, trying to make sense of it. And then when we write it down and someone else reads those words at the same time, because we've made those words to fit the gibberish, well, it fits. It doesn't actually make much sense. But it starts off, okay, he'll give those with him 666. We know that's the number of the beast. There was a little tool shed. Well, maybe this is where the Lord of Darkness visited upon play. Where he made us suffer, sad Satan. I think the worship bit comes later on. But you can see how nobody, except a devil worshipper down here at the front, could perceive anything in the song forwards. When I played it backwards, some snippets did stand out. My sweet Satan definitely sounds of it's in there. Nobody said, I heard something about a tool shed. But when you listen to the song with the words, dramatically, you can hear the whole thing. So what's going on here? But if we take a snippet from the song and look at it not now as words, but as what we call phonemes, the actual sounds, the constituents of the words. I've tried to sort of colour the various bits differently. So we take a phrase like, and there's still time. So we take that bit, tilt, just that snippet, tilt. It's nonsense, forwards or backwards. But when you play it backwards, it sounds like emit tilt seratna. And that clit bit becomes sweet. T has got a very high frequency sound. It's got a bit of hiss in there, so t sounds a bit like s. And then you get lit. Well, the L's and W's sound quite similar when you look at them, when you analyse the sound spectrum. So lit becomes wheat. So we've got tlit becomes sweet. If you're reading in your mind the word sweet, the sound clit is not close enough for you to hear the word sweet. And then you've got seretin, which sounds like Satan. You've got the st, n, and two vowels. So Slit, sarad, sounds like sweet Satan. I can't actually talk backwards, let alone forwards. But that's the way this illusion works. When you're expecting to hear something, you can pick up phoneme by phoneme, and your brain makes sense of the nonsense by your expectation. And in fact, this is the way we hear normal speech. Because speech is heard in a very noisy environment, usually. We don't speak clearly. And we talk with things in our mouths and our hands in front of our faces. And so you have a very disordered, poor, noisy stimulus. And your brain works overtime to make sense of those phonemes. It has a wide tolerance for fitting the wrong phoneme into the expected sound. That's what's happening when you listen to songs backwards, and suddenly the gibberish makes sense.